to stay. My experience with these programs is that speakers are always great, but sometimes the Q&A is great. So I'm looking forward to some really interesting comments and questions. There are about 80 people here, so I hope you'll be respectful and limit your question or comment to 1 minute. And also, please just choose once to contribute so everybody else has a chance. All right, so you may address your question to the panel or to one or two members of the panel, and comments are also invited if you have one. So let's start with Kathy Orloff.
Okay, hi. I'm Kathy Orloff on the Neighborhood Social Justice Committee. So when you were here before,
Yes.
Vincent and Stephen Parry was here from the, from the Commissioner of Public Safety.
Yes.
I was asking about the issue of John, what's his name? John Prince that saw the police and the police jumped over the fence and grabbed his phone because he had been, and that issue is, I asked Mr. Parry, were those policemen censured in any way? And Mr. Parry, as I recall, said he thought they were suspended, but he really didn't know. So meanwhile, I Googled it, and it turned out that of the 3 officers, one had nothing happen to him. Another one was suspended for 1 day without pay and had to go to some retraining, and the third one just had to go to some retraining. So our committee would like to write a letter and get as many people who want to sign it, suggesting that, and this is where I'm asking you, that the police chief should revisit those penalties, or can you do that? So you're suggesting.
No, I think it's perfectly good to revisit that, because I didn't know it was like that. I thought that they had gotten more punishment. I didn't get a specific,
Steve had.
I didn't get anything specific on that, but I would write the commissioner and the police chief, and I would do whatever you need to do to make sure that your concerns are known, because I myself don't think that that is enough punishment, given what John Prince went through. And I don't want to go through what he went through, but that punishment is not enough. So yes, please do that.
Janet. Loud.
Words are different than actions. I would like to be an active participant, but I don't know what you need us to do. And that's, that's the big thing. Nobody wants to hang up a banner and go inside. But it is a movement that belongs to the people in it. And if there were some things happening, what would we do? Because talking among ourselves doesn't help.
I'm gonna actually take that very important question and I want to invert it. I want to turn it back around to you all. What do you think you should do? And I'm not being disrespectful. Please don't take this way. It's a literal question. What do, and actually I saw her hand too, coming to the sister over here. I think that, I only said just a couple of the things that we are working on over at here. Anybody within the sound of my voice is more than welcome to come over there. You're more than welcome now to go to NAACP places and get engaged and get involved. But for me, the part of the question is the one that reflects back on you. What do you do when you see oppression, when you see wrong happening? And you don't need anybody's permission. It's not that you always know the answer to that question, but you get to create something on the ground. And as this is an organized body on some level, that's sort of how I think it's useful to think through that. The sister had her hand up over here. Did you have a response?
What I would say, shut up, you got my trying to be funny. What I would say is a little bit of what Marco said, but I would say show up. Show up at the NAACP. We meet the third Thursday at the Temple at 6 p.m. That's the general body meeting. Now, if you want to work with the kids, I see everybody under the age of 25, from middle school to college. Come see me. Honey, I love a volunteer. And if you want to do something more, my go down the hill. Because if you take it down the hill to the other churches, Mr. Vincent and I are talking right now, somebody on social media talking about, I didn't know that happened. You didn't ask. But if we bring this down the hill to the other churches and the other community centers where they're not having this discussion with all of us, that's half the battle right there. That's just me.
I think that's an excellent choice to mingle with other churches and make sure that there's cross-pollination of ideas, because you have an activist church here. Unitarians do an excellent job, but not every church is up to your speed. But just to make sure that you know when our meetings are, we're at 883 A Street. It's the third Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. at the Prince Hall Masonic Lodge. But the one specific thing that I want your help with that we need to do, and I talked about the last time, is trying to do voter registration. If there's one thing, it should just be one thing, and get it, and let me sure we do it right. Let's do voter registration right. I'm gonna need your help because we haven't been able to kind of put that together. So come to the next general body meeting, which is next Thursday at 6 p.m. at 883 Eddy Street, Prince Hall Masonic Lodge, and come and let's talk about it. Let's start a voter registration drive that night, next week. That's my challenge. Let's do it. Let's get involved in that one thing, voter registration.
Y'all want a carpool?
Yes. We got plenty of seats.
I just want to say, as a white accomplice, I think we need to look at where do we have some leverage? Where can we start dismantling some stuff? Pilar talked about the schools and the inequality here. You know, I think we should use every tool we have. Voting, I think we should be pushing legislative advocacy. I think we should be on the streets organizing. I think we should reach out to other multi-faith people and be out there witnessing. I think we should look at where we put our dollars and where we don't. So I think this is the call. So it's not, I wish there was just like one thing that's all around, but it's really like, how are we invested in the system and how are we going to divest?
Yes. Claudia.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. And good evening to the panelists. Thank you for taking
Loud,
the time to be here. I'll be louder. I want to extend a little on what I heard Jim Vincent say at the prior meeting. I wasn't here, but I understood that he recommended that same concept, that our membership here, that congregants should participate in voter registration. Now, I would like to extend on that further because I'd like to challenge that notion that voter registration is not enough. I think first, it's important for the congregation and for white allies and white accomplices to first believe what black people say. Believe their stories, believe their narratives, because too often, black people and other non-whites, their stories, their narratives are dismissed by the mainstream, are dismissed by white people. I think that's the first thing that our membership can do here. The second thing I would encourage is to not be afraid to make other white people uncomfortable. Because I'm sure we all, preach. It's not only non-whites and black people that are witnesses to subtle or overt manifestations of bigotry, racism, and prejudice. But I don't mean to say you all, but white people, middle-class white people, upper-middle-class white people, educated white people who live in 02906, have access to white people, to people in privilege, to those who are in power, more so than someone like me or other non-white people. You all have access to people who make decisions, who have influence in our economy, in our legal system, in our society. So I challenge you to do not be afraid to make other white people uncomfortable. It's okay. And that actually helps non-white people when you do. And I would push that further, beyond making other white people uncomfortable, influence other white people. As I stated before, you all, I hate to say you all, but men and women in this room have more access to judges, chiefs of police, executives, chairmen of the board, bankers, investors, other decision makers that we just don't have. And I was reading an article many years ago in Black Enterprise magazine, and what I remember is that it said that there are less black-owned businesses now than there were in the 1970s. and I'd like to push that further because I work in organized labor, there are less black union members in organized labor now than where they were in the 1970s. And the reason why I bring that up is that the point that I'm making is that that makes black people and other non-whites, but especially black people and particularly black men, more dependent on the choices and the decisions that white people in power make on their economic vitality and their economic future.
Thank you.
So black people now are more dependent on that, so we need allies and accomplices to influence those people that we can.
Thank you very much.
The thing I wanted to say is that, I grew up in the South. My folks were sharecroppers from Selma, Alabama. And I couldn't wait to move to the North because I thought like, it kind of symbolized a certain kind of freedom. But, when I got up there after that initial euphoria wore off, it all started to feel kind of dreadfully familiar. I mean, a lot of the same dynamics are in place. And I had to say that, like, it's like I almost had to get used to, like, feeling like that racism is like something that just, there's no escape from. Every day, some various forms, various intensity, and it doesn't take a day off. And so many times I feel like alone, and I feel just really, I don't want to say fatalistic about it, but I just feel really worn down. And the thing I really take from these people tonight is like, they've maintained a certain optimism, in the struggle, and that's something I want to get back, because that's one thing that I think empowers you. If you have those expectations that, if you push it, you can succeed those. So,
As a friend of the congregation, is there anything you want to say to them?
well, the thing is this, though.
He's been coming to this church for many years.
One of the things that really makes me come back is this business of, in the church credo, of the worth and dignity of every human being.
Worth and dignity.
Worth and dignity. So what I'm saying is, like, we have a chance here to put our money where our mouth is. That's why I think this resolution, passing this resolution, is so important.
I just want to say something. I probably don't need the microphone either, like my friend over here was over at the middle school. And I just wanted you to know, because I know we have a lot of people here that live on the east side, and the upper east side is they're starting to call over around there. And I've heard, because I know Councilman Kevin Jackson and I have had a lot of conversations, that they were trying to force a lot of the problem African-American children at the Nathan Bishop Middle School and bus them out to the other parts of town because they didn't want them, the way it was affecting the middle school over here, which I thought was awful, and he was fighting very loudly. So you guys, you got to talk to your city council people over here and tell them that no, that doesn't fly. And that middle school's for everybody. And that's the thing, on the east side here, especially around the Mount Hope area, that's an old time African-American community. It's been there for, 150 years or something. And, those families have been there for generations after generations. Now they're trying to tell them, no, your kids, they can't go to this middle school here anymore. That's a few blocks away from their house because, we don't want those students in here anymore. We've made this nice kind of lily white suburban middle school to try to keep all the rich East Siders so that they don't move out of town. That's basically behind, between the lines what it was being said and how it was being pitched.
Thank you, John.
And why this sales going. So please, speak out. Talk to the city council people.
Just as this community also, we have the Community Safety Act, which is a very concrete way to help address some of these real concrete and structural issues in the city and nationwide, addressing police racial profiling, stopping kids on the way to school for no reason. We need to talk to Zuria and Jurgen. It's working its way through the Providence City Council, and we need this support, not just from the communities that are most affected. This is the voice of the power that speaks. Unfortunately, that we have that privilege. We need to know whether you want to address that, whether you think you have that privilege, you want that privilege, you have that privilege by the color of your skin, and you need to use it. So the Community Safety Act, There is working on, there's multiple organizations in the city, and we need to speak to Europe and Zurich.
I wanted to say that Frederick Douglass was also right here in Providence, Rhode Island, and he had accomplices, white accomplices of the Rices from Newport, and one member of this church with the last name of Chase. So this evolution of Black Lives Matter has started a long time ago. And it will come back again, because there'll be moments again when certain groups are scapegoated. It's no surprise that a black president would suddenly be in office and we see more of this. It's not a surprise. And Frederick Douglass said that power never gives itself up. It never gives itself away. So we've got to take it. We've got to stand together as humanity and do that. Not because you're white and I'm brown or someone else is yellow and there are no purple people. We have to treat each other the way we want to walk on earth, with respect, dignity.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Just to our panelists, I wanted to ask you guys if any...
Louder.
Sure, sorry. To our panelists, I wanted to ask if any of you have a response to the comments this fall by our Speaker of the House, Nicholas Mattiello. His comment at a conversation about race in Rhode Island that he does not believe that white privilege exists in our state. So when the speaker said that he did not believe that white privilege mattered, I asked him to come on my block. He ain't been on my block yet. And I wanted to know, well, if he didn't think white privilege existed, what did he think people have been talking about for all these years? I felt insulted. I felt insulted as a woman of color. I felt insulted as a female. Because how can you say something doesn't exist when everybody's talking about it in every state, in every city, and in every town? So if he thinks it doesn't exist, then I want to see him over at Nathaniel Green. I want to see him on Broad Street, Elmwood. I want to see him on Massachusetts Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, he doesn't go over there. He leaves the house, he gets in his car, with the tinted windows, and they drive him off into the sunset. And until he comes on my block, me and him got beef. And you can tell him I said it. Not here today, but he left the world. I told him myself.
I actually had a meeting with him about this, and I said, look, actually he wanted to meet with me about this because he knew he was under siege. And he made the comments. I guess he felt that, this did not go well for him because of the way the Providence Journal had the headline. And after talking to him, I got the feeling that he really didn't understand what the concept even was. He had this feeling that if he didn't see prejudice in front of him from day to day, then there was no problem. And he said, I don't believe that white should have privilege over anybody. I said, well, nobody believes that, but, and then I guess there was also this discussion about how certain whites are, poor and other whites have more money, so, if you're white and poor, you're not privileged. It's the whites that have the more money that are privileged. So I got the sense that he really didn't quite understand what the whole concept was. Not that make excuses for him, but I think there's a lot of people that don't understand it because they give the same responses. And I think you can help educate them as to what it is. I have to tell that, in some cases, there are people that go to college because there's property in their families and they take out equity loans. And there are families that are black that you could not buy property because of restrictive covenants, because HUD denied you a loan based on race, and that's in the 60s. And when you have a grandparent that had an apartment that basically had children who have another apartment, there is no equity. But yet we're on the same playing field where we're applying for these schools and trying to get grants and trying to get other things, and it's not equal. So you have a privilege. You might not ask for it, but you've inherited it. because of their grandparents and great-grandparents, because of what they were able to do versus what my grandparents and my great-grandparents wanted to do. You don't have to ask for it. You have inherited it, like it or not. You're not going to get followed around in the store. I am. So that's a privilege that you have that I don't have. And it's not that you ask or not ask for it. It just exists because you are white in America. And I think after that, he gets understood a little bit better. Understood a little bit better, but I think clearly, I think he missed the question because of the response that he gave me in his office. And I'm not trying to make excuses for him because I think there's a lot of people that are like that. And I think we each need to have a conversation about what we mean by white privilege, because not everybody with the media and all the discussion really has an understanding of what that term means.
Let me also very quickly say, the danger
It's okay.
the danger in what he said is not his words, but the fact that he can say that because he's in a position of power. And that's reflective of a particular kind of thought. And so because he's in a position of power, and he's thinking this, I mean, the whole NAACP could have went down and had a conversation with him.
That wouldn't clear that up. Right? That doesn't get cleared up from a conversation. He's operating from a particular paradigm of thought that is blinding him to not just the realities of individual black folks, but the realities of like how this structure is working. This kind of thought, if it's 1805 and you're in South Carolina, go talk to a planner. You know, say, we don't have any problem down here. My Negroes like me. I treat my slaves nice on the plantation. Or go to Alabama in 1955. Martin Luther King. Birmingham jail. Letter from a Birmingham jail. Who was he responding to? 8 white ministers who had written a letter, and he responded to them on the margins of a newspaper that he smuggles out of the solitary confinement to his attorney. And what is the opening sentence? Dear brothers, I am writing to you today from a Birmingham City jail. That's the opening line of his letter. Why is he saying now? What were the ministers saying? They were saying, listen, you don't need, just trust the courts and the legal system. And things will be fine. It's no problem. That's Mattiello. Is that how you say his name? Yeah. This is thinking. And later on, we see in the letter that Dr. King, he said, my white liberals have failed us. So he's in a position of power making these statements. It's not new. It comes out of a particular paradigm that we lose track of the humanity of people that we live with every day. And this is what facilitates the kinds of oppression that we can see. Right? I'm done.
So let's get real, right? Because these panelists have come to this church to talk to people here. And yes, white people have to talk to white people. But in relationship, in accountable relationship to people who are trying to dismantle this stuff. And there's no one thing. But there could be a liaison from this church to go to the DARE meetings and to be coming back here and saying, here's what DARE needs this week. Here's what DARE needs next week. Marco's running around all the time to all the different schools, organizing the youth. They need more organizers. And what can we do? There are so many things we can do. But let's do it in relationship and not just decide what we're going to do. These two are saying, come down to the meetings. We want you to come to us. So I think that is really the very first step. And we are in a moment where we actually have a chance to maybe really do something.
It's my privilege to thank all four of you for giving your inspiring message and very important information to us. And thank you very much for the work that you're doing in your life and for helping to impact. Thank you very much. We have inspirational speakers. It's always to let them have the last word. The last word is?
Last word is I thank each and every one of you because clearly you care about what's going on out here. And I do believe that you believe that black lives do matter. So do the right thing. Be love!
My last word would be this. If God is for you, who can be against you? You let no man turn you around. You let nobody, no situation keep you from your truth. Walk in it, learn it, know it. And if you don't know it, and you don't know how to find it, and you don't even know if it's under a rock, honey, come see me. And by the time you finish, you will have your truth, my truth, everybody's truth. We will turn this city around. Because when I'm in Powerball, I'm out. Only with $4 this week from here.
I love you. Call me.
I don't have any last words because I don't believe in last words. The struggle continues. And we don't stop until we win. We say it there, when we fight, we win. So we're going to keep on fighting, we're going to keep on winning.